I have two topics I want to talk about. One of them is body image, and the other one is asking for what we want and what we need. Look at this beautiful flower over here. Isn't that nice? Hope you can see that. Well, let's get started. Body image. Well, what do I know about body image? I guess a little bit. Of course, I have a body and I have an image of my body, and I'm aware that other people have bodies and that they have images of their body and of my own body, as I have an image of theirs. And where does this image come from? It comes from my eyes and what they see, and it comes from my perception of what my eyes see. And there's things that I'm attracted to, things that I like, and there's things that I'm repelled by, things that I dislike or maybe I don't like as much as other things. And I think it's the same for everything that we see. I can walk around and see a palm tree and like that, and I can look down and see some mud and not like that, and maybe all of a sudden I'll see a beautiful flower and I like that better than the palm tree. So doggy is very happy to see me. We're friends. So what's the issue with body image? I think there's basically one issue, which is judgments, self-judgments or judgments of others. And obviously the self-judgment is the worst one, or I guess the most important, because it all comes down to self-judgment. If I have a good self-judgment of myself, if I have a good body image of myself, it doesn't matter what people tell me, because I know what's true for myself. If I think I'm very beautiful and other people tell me I'm ugly, I'll just say, you know what, I think you're wrong, or I'll say maybe I disagree with you. I don't think that's true. That's your opinion. So that's the most important thing. But there's also an importance to not going around telling people negative judgments about their body. Telling somebody, hey, you're ugly. It's not really nice at all. And it's not very constructive either, because that person may have a good self-image and they may say, you know what, you're wrong. I'm not ugly, I'm beautiful. Or they may have a bad self-image and they can say, wow, you're right, I'm very ugly. And then they'll feel bad. And why do we want to make people feel bad? We don't. So if we don't like somebody, we don't really have to tell them. We can just walk away. We can express our lack of interest in nicer ways. We can say, hey, I'm not attracted to you. That doesn't mean that they're ugly. It just means, listen, like, I am not attracted to you. I see you, and my perception of you is that you are somebody that I'm not attracted to. It's that simple. It doesn't make them ugly. If they think that that makes them ugly, it's their own judgment, and that's something they have to work on their own. So for me, body image has been a fairly big issue, probably my whole life. Not as much when I was younger, but definitely when I started to hit puberty, it became more of a problem. As I began to see other figures, it became more of a problem. I remember watching men with big muscles on TV or on the magazines and thinking, wow, I need to get that. If I get that, I'll be good. If I get that, I'll be able to get other things I want, like money, fame, women, joy, happiness, peace, etc. And that was all a mistake. It was a mistake to think that I needed to be like somebody else. It was a mistake to think that that particular body image would bring me the things that I wanted. It was all the wrong approach, and perhaps that's why it didn't work out. Perhaps that's why I never achieved those things that I wanted, because I was looking at them with the wrong approach. So I guess that's a pretty good short little video about that, and it's a good transition to my next video. So for my next video, I'll talk about asking for what we want and what we need and going for it. Going for it and asking for it are fairly the same thing. If I ask for it, I'm going for it, and if I'm going for it, I may need to ask for it. So I'll take them both as fairly similar. I noticed since I moved to Kanekiki that whenever I have a need for something, I usually tend to hold on to it for a little bit because I believe that it won't be fulfilled. I have a preconceived assumption that I can't ask for that I'm asking for too much, that I'm being too needy. That's a word that has been ingrained in my brain, being too needy. And that's a pretty bad way of living, because that makes me go day and night without getting my needs met, and that's just not fun at all. Here's a car. I'm gonna pause for just 1 second to let it come through, and then I'll keep talking right after that. Great. So I noticed that in Kanekiki, if I have a need and I ask for it, usually it gets fulfilled pretty much immediately. And that's because it's a very loving place, it's a very accepting place, and people want to help. It's a community, it's a close, tight, resourceful community of people that are loving, caring, and want to help. I also noticed that it was the same case with the community at family camp. It was a community of about 100 people, and usually if I needed something, it would take me a little while, and then I would ask for it and I'll get it. And it doesn't mean that I'll get it straight away from the person that I'm asking. That person might say no. You know, if I go around saying I want a hug, somebody might say, you know what, I don't want to give you a hug, I'm not feeling it right now, or I don't like you, or I don't want to touch you, you smell bad. But if I ask the next person or the next person, eventually somebody will say yes. And you know, in this community it's pretty easy to get a yes because they're loving communities. If I went to a different place where people are colder or more dispersed and there's no sense of community, then it's more likely I'll get a no. So I think it's important to recognize that and to move to places where our needs can be met. So for example, for me, I wanted community, I wanted health, I wanted nature, so I came to Hawaii, and I'm pretty much getting everything I need, and I recognize there's some things that I'm not asking for, and I need to get better at that. Somebody else may have another need, let's say the complete opposite. They want drugs, sex, alcohol, party, right? So maybe they'll go to Vegas. That's where they're gonna get their needs met. If you try to get drugs, sex, and alcohol at Kanekiki here in Hawaii, you'll have a rough time. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely harder to get than in Vegas, that's for sure. So we know that the environment that we are in, the community that we are surrounded with, helps us to get our needs met. And we know that asking for the things that we want and need, it's definitely very important, because otherwise it's very hard to get your needs met. And a thought that just crossed my mind is that perhaps the people that are very good at achieving things, money, women, or men, or wealth, or success, maybe these are people that didn't know how to ask for what they needed, so they were forced to learn how to go and get it for themselves. Maybe when they were young, they didn't know how to ask their parents for money to buy a bike, so they went and worked and got the bike for themselves. I'm not saying at all this is bad. I think it's a very valuable ability to be able to get the things that you need and want on your own. And at the same time, I think it's important to recognize when we need help and to be willing to be vulnerable enough to ask for those things, to say, hey, I need help, I can't do this on my own. Hey, I feel vulnerable, I need some loving, I need some care. Hey, I'm hungry, can you please give me some food? Hey, I need $1 for the bus. I actually think that the people that ask for money on the street are pretty brave asking for money. I noticed that a couple times in my life I needed some change for a bus, and I was fairly afraid of asking for it. It was actually quite an interesting exercise and a change of perspective on life, because I didn't want to be seen as needy. I didn't want to be seen as a homeless person or some type of trickster trying to get money from people to buy drugs. And those were all my preconceived ideas of what it meant to ask for money, because I have judged people in the past who asked me for money. A lot of times we don't actually know what our needs are. That's definitely something that I've been realizing more and more lately. We just have all these buried needs and desires underneath, and we are ashamed of them, ashamed of not having them, ashamed of not having what we need, ashamed of wanting what we need or needing that. You know, there's all these nuts on our psyche, and that doesn't allow us to get our needs fulfilled, so we go for years and years without getting those needs met. I would say needs and desires around sexuality are probably one of the strongest. At least for me, they were for a long time. They still are. There's still a lot of things that I have a need and a desire for. Sexual exploration that I have not yet manifested, and it's interesting how it's sort of stuck. You know, I have a, let's call it a form of mental constipation, you know, or some form of manifestational constipation. I don't really know what the term is, but I basically have this thing in my psyche that I want and I need and I just cannot fulfill, and it's creating all sorts of weird relationships with women, with men, with myself, really. And I hope I can fix that, because it's really no fun. I look at a lot of people who seem to be more free to express who they are and express their needs and desires, and they tend to be happier people. I mean, who knows, you know, things can be very deceptive, but yeah, I think it's interesting to note that I value, you know, I value those people. I admire the people that dress the way they want, go and get what they want, no matter how weird it may be for some other people. I think that we all are perfect and that our needs are perfect, and we all most likely as humans have the same needs for security, community, self-actualization, and so on and so forth, food and whatnot. And it manifests in different ways. For some people, security means having a big house with tall gates and a fancy alarm system. For some people, security means having a gun under the pillow. For some people, security means having parents that will take care of them. Some people see security as having a husband or a boyfriend or maybe even a girlfriend, who knows. So we all want really the same security or the same safety, but we need it in different amounts and we get it in different ways. And that's why it's important to learn what our needs are and how exactly do we need them fulfilled. Because if I go to my friend and I say, hey, can you help me get some security? And he thinks, oh, that means you need a gun under your pillow. Then he goes and buys me a gun under my pillow. And really what I wanted was, to have him help me pick an alarm system for my house. So we have to be very clear with what our need is and how we need it manifested.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.